So radiation pattern is very much important because ultimately because it only dictates the radiation that are happening outside the world, right, in the environment, right. So it is basically as a function of distance it will vary, and pattern shape will not will be independent of distance when you cross the far field distance, right, and that we'll discuss later. And what we get out of this radiation pattern, we'll get many more parameters, right. Okay, so one such parameter is that gain, side lobe level. So because that only dictates that how much power I'm sending towards my intended direction. Beam width, that dictates the gain, and polarization, beam direction, and so on. Okay. Next is that radiation pattern will gives me what sort of polarization I am operating. One is linear, circular, or elliptical. Okay. So this is the notation that we have. And now comes various forms of antennas or types of antennas, right? So first, initially it started with the wire antennas. Initially they designed with the Hertzian loop. You might have heard Hertzian monopole, Hertzian dipole. Okay, that was the first antenna design. Okay, that first antenna is experimentally demonstrated, and wire antennas, wherein you can see that loop and helix and dipole or half-wave dipole or monopole. Okay. Next is that aperture antennas, which handle the high power when compared to the wire antennas. Microstrip patch antennas, in order to have a compact, antennas. Next is that array antennas. You can see that kind of conventional array, or it can be a patch array, printed antenna array, or it can be a argued array or aperture array, and many more. And reflector antennas, which is mainly used for very high gain applications, like long range, basically long range communication, astronomy or radar or satellite. Okay, lens antennas, and especially used for these space applications. Okay, now so how the antennas are evolved in terms of, so just so far we have seen general form of the antennas. Now let's see how the antennas are evolved in the telecommunication networks perspective. Okay, so initially we started with wire antennas, external wire antennas this much big. Okay, so now then in 2G to 2.5G we had external antennas, and then what happened is this will brought inside with the help of printer patch antennas. Okay, or printer antennas you can say. And in 3G, we had multi-band antennas, like it has to support 2G and 3G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS as well. And in 4G, it has to support all the 3G, 2G, and Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and also MIMO. Okay, but in 5G, it is even more complex because it has to support MIMO, massive MIMO array, and then 4G as well. Because if you are implementing non-standalone network, so it has to co-locate with the 4G antennas and MIMO antennas especially, and multi-band MIMO antennas, multi-user MIMO antennas, and so on, along with the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, and many more antennas, right? So near RFC, near field communication antennas, and many more. Okay. So you can see that how the antennas have evolved. From this graph, you can see the size is reduced, exponentially. Okay, you can see like this, and here you can see that how much complex is the mobile device is getting. You might have seen because earlier we had a compact phone, which is very small phone. Now we are having a kind of smart sort of a big phone, which has a highly integrated antennas and many more components. Okay, the components are billions of components are being mounted on the system level. And this is the phased array concept. This we have already discussed in the first two, I think second slide or third slide. Okay, and now when it comes to 5G, we have we have mentioned that it is beamforming concept, right? So how it's actually a phased array. Okay, so how it works, okay, that we need to understand, right? So let us take a simple Butler matrix. Okay, 4 cross 4 Butler matrix. How does the beamforming works in Butler matrix case? you can see that we'll have in button, we have a digital coupler and a crossover and phase shifter and so on. Okay, so if I this is the printer antennas connected to the butler matrix. These are all excitation inputs. Okay, so if I excite the port one, okay, of the butler matrix. So when port one is excited, which means so the will straight away get one output here, another output here, another output here. So all four antenna elements are being excited with the different set of phase components, phase or amplitude excitation. Okay. So now I will get a beam like this. Next, I will excite the beam, port at here. Then I will get a beam like this. Next, I will excite this port. I will get a beam like this. Next, I will excite a port. This port, I will excite a beam like this. So, so this is how the phase derivative works. So, based on the by controlling the excitations, we can steer the beam wherever you want. Not there also we have limitations. We cannot just steer at 360-degree. We can steer up to, I think nowadays research are going on, plus or minus 60-degree steering is possible. I think papers are coming up, and beam width also matters. Okay, and we can quickly run through these slides because we have to discuss more on that. And we have beamforming networks are available. Okay, in order to excite the each antenna elements, we have analog beamforming, digital beamforming, and hybrid beamforming. So let's look at let's spend 1 minute on this. Like in analog beamforming, the data stream coming and baseband processing, then it will be given to the multiple antenna elements through our front ends. Okay, whereas in the disadvantage here is, for example, I'm going for a non-standalone network wherein 5G is operating in millimeter wave band and 4G is operating in sub-6 GHz. Then this cannot be used because it will support one frequency at a time, right? So that time we can use digital beamforming, wherein we have baseband processing and RF chain is different. So separate baseband processing is there for each RF chain. So here we have flexibility of this can operate in one frequency band, this can operate in another frequency band. So but the cost wise is much complex. It's a design wise complex, and also cost is much higher. Okay, so therefore in order to compromise between these two, the hybrid beamforming is used in 5G especially. So initially, we give inputs to the digital beamforming network, and then it will be given each output of the each digital beamforming RF chain will be given to the another analog beamforming chain. Okay, therefore, multiple elements are served, and we can handle different frequency of operation. Okay, that both are achievable in the hybrid beamforming. Now, antennas for biomedical application, because in 5G one of the use cases is that we are going for a telemedicine or remote surgery, right? So that time we have for example, some patient is there, the patient is fitted with a pacemaker. So a patient is now treated by me. I know, for example, now the doctors are coming from London or somewhere else, right? So no need for that in future, okay, because they can operate from London itself. Okay, so you have to set up a system or lab at the India or anywhere in the world, so they can operate from London or India to the other parts of the world. Okay, remote surgery. So where biomedical, especially what happens is, so you will have a lot of antennas or implantable antennas or wearable antennas, multiple antennas will be there. So that is used to control the your operation or monitor your health, and also, for example, in pacemaker. So in order to monitor the pacemaker health, you can use wearable antennas or capsule antennas or implantable, and many more antennas are there. So with that, you can monitor the health, the operation of the pacemaker, and the patient's health. Okay. Some more antennas are like now smartwatches are coming up. So most of the antennas are mounted on that. In USB dongle, you can see that small antennas are there. So now let's see other RF components. So what are all other RF components? We have seen in the, I think, first part itself that, one is mixer. Okay. So what for it is used? Either it a down convert or up convert. So what it does is you will have a one frequency, yeah, incoming frequency signal, and then you will have a local oscillator. So based on the a desired output or higher frequency, I can tune my local oscillator in order to get the desired output frequency. So here you can see that it is dictated based on you have signal frequency and local oscillator frequency. So signal frequency anyway we cannot change. So local oscillator frequency, by tuning it, you can able to achieve a different set of up converter or down converter frequency. Second is the IF filter. So IF filter is basically it's very much useful in order to process the signal. Okay. So for example, you might have heard the name called resolution bandwidth, right? So for example, you have a sine wave, right? If you do sampling like this, okay. So what you will get? You will get a sine wave like this. Okay. So if you do multiple sampling, therefore then you will get a almost exact sine wave. Similarly, it works here also. So IF filter, if you keep on reducing the IF bandwidth, okay, then you will get the exact signal. You can see here that the same signal is being sent. If you use IF bandwidth of higher IF bandwidth, you are getting the signal like this. Okay, you are decoding the signal like this. When you reduce the IF bandwidth, you can even find information of the signal you can capture. That is what is the advantage of this IF filter, and resolution bandwidth is very much important in order to decode the signal properly. Okay, and other than that, filters are there. You have low pass filters, high pass filters, band pass, band stop, and so on. Now let's discuss another 10 minutes or so. I think within another 10 minutes or so I will wind up. Okay, so some of the challenges that we face when we especially work on 5G antenna design. Okay, so one thing is that we are handling two kind of bands. One is sub-6 gigahertz and the other one is millimeter waves, right? Another is that we are going to use massive MIMO array and many MIMO antennas. So now we can't design antenna separately and other RF modules separately. We have to integrate the antenna module, RF front-end modules, and so on. So in order to have optimal design, so active integration is a challenge because you have to simultaneously optimize your amplifier performance and also, for example, power amplifier performance and mixer performance and the antenna performance. So it is quite difficult, and miniaturize RF modules, it's another challenge because substrates will become crucial here, and a lot of switches, pins, traces are and so on. Large number of filters are there. We have seen in the, I think, first part of our presentation, power amplifier and so on. And system on chip, a system of package concepts for array is implemented, and more switches, and we have seen already. And beamforming, and it has several process. So in RF front end perspective, it has this has to be othered. So in order to, because this process, each process will will be linked to the beamforming network. So because each process will be linked to the beamforming network. So because this only dictates the excitation to be fed, because this only dictates the refining of beam, where it has to be directed and what sort of beam width we are expecting, and so on. And CAD modeling, you can see that we cannot simply design single layer design. We have to go for multi-layer design. Large number of layers are there. Thin substrates have to be used because we are sandwiching many layers of substrates. So because we don't have flexibility to have bigger phones. Okay, and antennas perspective, antenna element design is there because we have a stringent condition that multi-band operation, multiple services have to be served, and many more. And feeding methods, impedance matching, element spacing also a crucial parameter here because you don't have enough spacing to keep a half lambda spacing. You have to play with the spacing, and then you have to play with the design, and then in order to come up with your compact design. And polarization, because nowadays we don't no more read a single polarization, we need dual polarization, bandwidth, and so on. and beamforming itself. So see, you might have seen that 5G has a low latency applications, right? So there the algorithm should be that much efficient. It should have it should process in microseconds. Otherwise, the whole system fails, right? Because you have to operate in milliseconds scenario, right? So beamforming networks also the design should be in such a way that it should not have we can see we used to say TT, I think. Total transmission time. So TT time. So because the group delay should be low as low as possible, because if we have enough good amount of group delay, then the whole system performance will go down. Crosstalks and antenna mutual coupling and impedance mismatch and so on. Okay. And fabrication perspective, choice of substrate is becoming crucial here, because we cannot because we are expecting higher bandwidth, but we do not have flexibility to choose thicker substrate, right? Usually thicker substrate gives higher bandwidth, but we do not have that flexibility. We are going for thin substrate, right? And low loss substrate, and also the stringent condition have to be met for the 5G scenario, because we are going for complex design, right? And surface roughness and so on, because surface roughness become crucial when you talk of millimeter waves, and PCB laminates and other so on. Fabrication tolerance is very important, because we can't we can for example, you design very good perfect system in the simulation. When you go for a fabrication, they say that no, we can't fabricate this because of the track clearance and so on, and EMI issue when you stack up the PCBs. And characterization perspective, we have we have to create an environment where you should not have a surrounding effect, because we have to see whether it's actually a problem with the system or the surrounding effect. We have to see. So we have to have a controlled environment to test our each and every module and system level testing. And then we have to do we mimic the test environment or actual environment in order to see the performance of the device. And simulation testing, as we mentioned sometime before, we can't go for say antenna element design separately and the amplifier design separately. We have to go for integrated simulation, wherein we have to aim for better radiation characteristics and better impedance matching parameters, right? So impedance matching of the between your antenna and the amplifier, and also the it should not for example, sometimes we get a better impedance matching, but when you look at the radiation characteristic, it will be much poor. So that should not be the case. We have to compromise between both, and also diversity performance, because we are using MIMO. Okay. Now you can see that. You can see here that you have an input matching network, amplifier, and output matching network. Then you have a two-element antenna. So we have to optimize simultaneously the input matching network of the amplifier and the element antenna in order to obtain the better impedance matching as well as the radiation characteristics, right? Next is antenna measurements, right? So sometime before we mentioned that the antenna patterns does not change when you cross the far field distance. That is dictated by 2D square by lambda. Okay, so this 2D square by lambda basically comes from generally you can see, you might have studied in your Balanis book or any book that any antenna will radiate in spherical, the radiate the waves in spherical, which is in spherical in nature. Okay, so when it receives at the receiver end, so if you look at the phase difference between the spherical wave and the aperture plane, it should, if in the acceptance phase difference is 22.5 degree. So if you can convert that 22.5 degree in terms of wavelength, it will come around lambda by 16, right? So when you solve this problem, for example, when you solve this equation, then you will get the far field distance. See, you have a R here. This is R1 actually, sorry. This is R1. So R1 is nothing but your R plus lambda by 16, which is nothing but your 22.5 degree. So if you apply the Pythagoras theorem and then rearrange the equation, then you will get the 2D square by lambda. Okay. So you can see here that this is the simulation perspective. So your spherical waves are coming up. When you are at the far field, you are getting the almost a planar wave. So this is how radiation pattern will look like when you measure the things. And you can see here that the open, so there are number of setups are available. One such setup is open area test site setup, and wherein you have, a typical test setup will have a source and the signal source and the antenna source, test and so transmitting antenna under test. Okay, and you will have a sometime, you will have a reference antenna. You will have a, spectrum analyzer or power meter. Okay, earlier they used local oscillator, now we use spectrum analyzer. Okay, we have the flexibility, and test positional control also will be there. Okay, in order to capture the radiation pattern. So the disadvantage here is that open area test site, you will see, whenever you are doing open area, means it's an open area, right? So when you do the measurements during the, natural calamities, like, when rain is happening, and when you have high wind pressure, you can't do the measurement, right? So that's why we go for a anechoic chamber based measurements, wherein you have a controlled environment. Therefore, external interference will not come inside the test setup, and multipath effect also, it's not there in the anechoic chamber. Okay, and another set of measurement is that, see, anechoic chamber, size of the chamber, the parameter called, quiet zone is there. So that dictate, size of the quiet zone and size of the chamber dictate, directly proportional to the cost. Okay, sorry, cost is directly proportional to the size of the chamber. So when you want to build, higher, longer or range anechoic chamber, then your cost will be exponentially increased, right? So in order to avoid that, the other approach called, near field measurements. So direct far field we can obtain by employing compact antenna test range. Okay, where we have, feed source here and reflector here. This will work as an offset fed reflector antenna. Okay, so wherein we can achieve the planar waves at the shorter distance. Okay, the another approach is that it's actually inner far field, or, you can say near field to far field transformation, wherein you will capture the amplitude and phase of the fields at the near field, just at the aperture of the antenna. Then you will convert that into the radiation pattern by employing the Fourier transform. Okay, so now these are all the conventional measurement method for that is used for, any for characterizing any equipment or a system or any module. Okay, but when it comes to 5G, we have, some kind of difference, because here we have beamforming concept. Okay, and MIMO also to be tested. Okay, both beamforming and MIMO to be tested. Okay, so that's why we use, two-dimensional positioner. So far we have been using single-dimensional positioner, or, sometimes two-dimensional positioner. Here we have a over-the-air measurement method. So which means you are keeping your antenna at the origin of the sphere, right? Then you are having, you are not having movable antenna. You have multiple number of antennas at the radius of the sphere, right? So in order to capture the direction of beam, okay, and also the for example, if you want to test MIMO diversity or MIMO performance and multi-user MIMO, and which direction the beam is coming out, and that those parameters we can measure with the help of over-the-air over-the-air testing. Okay. Next is I think I am almost done. Okay. So design and testing tools. Okay, simulation software. See, design we do. There are two ways to do. One is using analytical approach, wherein you will solve some of the mathematical equation for your antenna design, and then you can capture the performance of the antenna. So that for many problems we cannot do that. So that's why we go for simulation tools, wherein, for example, a number of simulation tools are available. One is MATLAB and ADS, HFSS, CST, FICO, Impro, and LabVIEW, and many more. Okay, and test solution. It has testing solutions, and so Rhodes Squares, VIV, and National Instruments, Tektronix, and many more. Okay, many more are there.